And then Steve, if you can read the script and start the hearing.
Yeah. Are you going to show me the script?
Oh, apologies, I believe. Am I sharing my screen?
No.
I can see the script.
Well, I cannot.
Let's see. I'm going to reshare my screen. Steve, are you able to see that now?
I see. Okay, I've got it. Thank you.
Great.
All right, then. I'm calling this Bay Village Historic District Commission public hearing to order at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, February 10, 2026. Commissioners present are Steve Dunwell, Laura Shea, Craig Douglas, and Catherine Nelson. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, including the March 29, 2023 legislation, extending the suspension of these provisions until June 30th, 2027, we're conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations at the Bay Village Historic District Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform or email staff at bayvillageac@boston.gov. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. And then first up on our agenda is the ratification of the January 13th, 2026 meeting minutes.
So may I ask, has everyone read the minutes, and would someone give a motion to ratify them, please?
I have read the minutes, and I make a motion that we ratify the meeting minutes from our previous hearing in January.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Looks like
Aye.
a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Great. And then up next is our design review. We only have one item listed on design review, and that is for 25 Isabella Street. The proposed scope of work is to install one set of half-inch thick aluminum letters reading La Victoria of Boston, one 12-inch by 22-inch aluminum panel reading 25 Isabella Street, and one set of a 6-inch address numerals reading 25. The project representative, Jason, and who I've been in contact with through this process, I have made you the co-host, so you're able to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you wish. And then if you have any other project representatives that you would like me to unmute as well, please let me know.
Good afternoon. No, it's just me.
Great. And then if you could state your name and your affiliation for the record, that would be great. And then I also have your presentation, so feel free to just tell me next slide. And
Okay,
yeah.
great. Yes, so I'm Jason Perillo. I'm here today representing Whitney Vegas architectural signage products. So this application is for some lettering for this new project, a plaque, and then the address numbers. If we could go through the pages of the sign drawings.
Perfect. And before we start, new procedural thing that we're doing from our office. First, as staff, I will be reading my staff comment or my staff recommendation for this application before we continue. And the staff comment for this is that staff recommends approval as submitted. We note that this is a former Our Lady of Victory's Church, and the proposed signage is approvable under the regulatory standards. The letters and panels based on our correspondence and the application that we receive will not be lit, and the panels that are proposed to be installed into the brick will be attached into the mortar joints. We do suggest for commissioners to note to the applicant that if there are any changes to the signage proposal, they should notify staff immediately. So now that we have that on the record, I would be happy to continue on with your presentation, Jason.
Great. All right, so the first page just shows the fonts and the colors we're dealing with because these are going to be aluminum signs that are going to be painted. If we go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here's an elevation drawing showing the three signs. We have the La Victoire's Boston letters mounted above the door. We have the plaque and then the address numbers. If you go to the next slide, we have some details on the lettering above the door. These are aluminum letters that are going to be mounted to that panel above the door. These letters are, like I said, aluminum, and they are painted this bronze color. If you go to the next slide, it specs on the plaque, which is also aluminum with dimensional lettering and logo, also painted the two shades of bronze. And if you go to the next slide, I believe there's one more slide that has the address numbers. Yep, the same thing. It's aluminum numbers. These are dimensional numbers that are going to be mounted to the brick, painted that bronze color. And we're going to mount the numbers, and the plaque will be mounted into the mortar joints. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
And then Jason, you did share with me earlier, just for the commissioners to continue to understand, this is the current conditions of the project right now, and this will help, as shared by Jason, help visualize how that entrance is going to look like in relation to the rest of the building and the street.
Yeah, obviously it looks like there's a long way.
Takes a little bit of imagination at the moment, Jason.
Beautiful building, though.
Yeah, what I noticed right away is that you have completely removed the staircase now. Last time I looked, there were stairs there, and they're gone, which is, of course, part of the plan. And so the rendering you showed us is obviously the center bottom of what we're seeing right now. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And could you go to the, there you go, 25 Isabella. So on the right side, the address is spelled out, and then there are numerals on the left side.
Yes.
And what is that, the font for the La Victoire? So that's a really cool font.
Yeah, it is cool. If you go to the first page of the presentation, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it looks like it's called Arpona Light.
Huh. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it really does have
It
a
doesn't,
nice
they don't look the same to me, but anyway, I
Yeah.
think it's a very cool font, and looks nice.
I like it too.
Jason, I was having a hard time seeing the dimensions of each of the three signs that you're proposing. And secondly, what is the material above the door that the sign letters, that the sign will be in?
I believe that's wood, but I'm gonna have to get confirmation on that. I don't think it's metal. I think it's wood, but like I said, I'm gonna have to get confirmation. And if you look, each drawing has the full dimensions of all.
I just can't read them. They're too small.
Okay.
Um,
All right, I can read it off to you. For the La Victoire Boston, the La is 1.5 inches high. The Victoire is 6 inches high. And then again, the Boston is 1.5. And then when we go to the plaque, that's a 12-inch high by 22-inch wide plaque. And then the numbers are 6 inches high.
Will there be any signage on those glass doors that those fake three people are walking through?
There is no plan for that at this time, because really they just want to, name the building, with these signs. So I don't think it'll be necessary to have anything on the glass.
No frosting or any kind of logo of
That
in the doors?
I don't believe so, but on something like that, I'd have to get confirmation.
Just know if there was to be like any frosting in the future, anything like vinyl lettering or something like that on those doors, that would just have to be a separate
Okay,
application.
I will absolutely pass that on.
Great.
Oh, Jason, I'm curious, going back to the primary sign that's over the double entry there. So are they metal letters
Yes.
that are sort of affixed to a wood, like a flat wood panel? So there's like
Yeah,
little pins
exactly.
behind them or something like
That's
that?
exactly, yeah. If you look, there actually is a cross section. It's basically these
Yeah, I
little,
think I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, they're like little threaded rods. So like each letter will have 2 to 3 threaded rods that are screwed
Okay.
into the back of the letter. And then there's a template is put up that has those pin marks on it, and you drill those, and then the letters are sunk into the material.
Right. So it'll seem like they raised metal
Yes,
set forward from a flat painted surface,
exactly.
which is that same green that they're using for their trim.
That's right.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Are there other questions or comments?
I don't have any questions. I think it looks very elegant.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions? Jackie, should we ask for any public comment on this?
So if we will ask for public comment once the commission makes a motion. So if the commission sees reason to make a motion, considering the discussion that was had, then we can move on.
Okay, let's hear a motion then. Okay, I'll do it. I propose that we accept this proposal as presented and as acknowledged in the staff comments. It looks fine to me.
And I will second.
Okay, now, public comment, just vote on it. What do you think?
Great. Let me pull up the script to read off public comment.
Okay, I'll read this. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand or send your questions to staff by email at bayvillageac@boston.gov.
Great. And we're going to give it a couple more seconds to see if we have any raised hands. And currently in my email inbox, I have no email. So, and
I think we're
then,
good.
yeah, I think we are.
Let's vote on this proposal, which is to accept the design as shown and as already approved in the staff comments. All in favor?
I wanted
Aye.
to amend.
Oh, Laura?
I'm sorry. I wanted to amend the motion that if there are any changes to the signage plan, that the proponent notify staff, particularly if you were to, make any changes at all to the plan that you presented to us here today that we're voting on, or if you are going to add any vinyl or frost to those glass entry doors.
Okay. Laura, do you rephrase the whole proposal, like basically make a new motion?
Yeah, or you can also, Steve, if you'd like, you could just accept that amendment.
Okay, fine. That's easier. It's easier to do that. So basically, what the proposal is, the motion is to accept and ratify the design that we have been shown for these letters, with the proviso that it be made using the same technique that we've shown, and we've been shown, and that if there are any changes to that, that be referred back to staff for approval. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I think that's unanimous. So that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Great.
very
So-
much. Have a great evening.
Yeah, Jason, good luck and thanks for
Thanks,
showing
Jason.
us.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure I send some completion photos once we're done with this down the road.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
Great. Well, thanks all for doing that. For some staff updates, I know last hearing we're discussing about Ann Kilgus leaving, basically just having a vacancy in our commission. So I talked to leadership and wanted to see if there are any updates in that process. So what I heard actually of today was that our leadership are in the process of sending letters to Historic New England, because this is the seat filled by Historic New England, to nominate individuals for Ann's seats. So as I know, there's a couple of questions whether they had to be a resident of Bay Village, and they don't. They don't have to be a resident of Bay Village, but they do have to be a City of Boston resident. So we sent out those letters this week to see when Historic New England or if they will nominate someone, and they will have 90 days to respond. So it may take some time to start that process, but I wanted to share that with everyone here. And then second,
Sounds good.
Yep. And then second, also talking about Anne, obviously she's was a longstanding member of this commission. So we do have plans to honor her within the Commissioner Celebration event happening this Thursday. Unfortunately, she will be unable to make it, but I've let her know that she will definitely be discussing all of her commitment and time that she spent to Bay Village. If any of you guys are still thinking about making it, please let me know. We'd love to see everyone there. It's happening this Thursday, I believe at 6 or 5:30. And if anyone has any questions or want me to resend the invite for the Commissioner Celebration event, I'd be happy to.
Please remind us of the location. I think it's where your new offices are.
Yep, 26 Court Street.
26 Court. I'll be there.
Great. I'm excited. Um,
Unfortunately, I'll be in New York.
Yeah,
no
I won't.
worries.
I knew I had a conflict when you sent the invite.
No worries. It's, we know people are still really busy, but just wanted to see if anyone can make it last minute. But again, for those who can't make it, thank you again for all the time and dedication that you guys have spent on this commission. We really appreciate it. And even though, there are some who are unable to make it, the appreciation still extends to all of you. I also wanted to note that last night, Joe Cornish and I attended the Bay Village Neighborhood Association event regarding EV charging in the neighborhood. We were able to speak with It's Electric internally, and then we were there for last night's meeting. There are, if this is something that the neighborhood and It's Electric want to proceed on, we've already let the It's Electric team know that they can come to us in an advisory review capacity to sort of discuss how these sort of EV charging stations can work in relation to our regulatory standards. So they're aware of that. And Joe and I both sort of stated on the record that this is something that has happened in other districts and has had a lot of good reception. And so certainly, but just wanted to share that as well.
We have some neighbors that are running electric lines out of their houses out to their cars over the sidewalks. So
Yeah, it's really tough.
yeah.
It's a very small neighborhood. Parking's already really tough. The brick sidewalks don't help either. So, we've made aware of that situation. So hopefully, It's Electric and the neighborhood in the city and the neighborhood association can find something that works for everyone. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's it for staff updates. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, we can move on to adjournment.
Okay, sounds good. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Another unanimous vote. Okay,
Thanks,
great.
Steve.
What a team.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.